All right. Chapter 10. Let's do it. So, chapter 10 of The Art of Passing the Buck. I want to start on time because I'm not sure how long this chapter is going to be. So, I'm going to jump right into it. But real quickly, the last few chapters, excuse me, the last few chapters have left me asking questions. I was saying so far in 10 chapters in, and I'm asking also the chat, so feel free to respond. Um, how do you feel so far? Do you feel more informed? Do you feel like you know something that you didn't know before? Because that's the key. Information that you can use that's, intelligence that is actionable. That's the key to picking up anybody else's ideas, is that it's something that you can use. So that was where we left off at chapter 9, starting chapter 10. Um, I know I'm gonna say personally for me, if this was a TV show, I would not be watching 10 episodes just to get it. Me and my wife, we laugh about this often because we have different preferences in what we are entertained by. And I'm not I'm not going to follow through. If I watched the first episode and wasn't that good, I probably won't watch that second episode. So if I'm reading a book, it's the same. Probably won't get to chapter 10 and not be impressed and keep reading. But we reading this together. I'm gonna get through this because I said I would. But also as a reader, you pretty much can tell when somebody has something in what there's something that's of substance, because again, either the idea, the way it's framed, the way it's shaped, it could be an idea that you've heard before, just not put in a way that made it palatable to you. So it was something that you could use because that's what you want. So we left off with that question: is how are we feeling? Are we feeling more edified than when we started reading? That's the question. And I won't say that I'm completely unchanged, because they had me look into, what was it, fee simple, the rent structure. So I looked that up and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Um, that's good to know. So I won't say I didn't learn anything at all. I'm just waiting to get to the good stuff. So here we are in chapter 10. We often hear that communism is evil. Oh, I'm sorry. Name of this chapter: the power of distribution is the name of this one. Power of distribution. We often hear that communism is evil. Sharing equally when not everyone puts in the same effort is abhorrent to the Western mind. The family unit, though, is based on shared wealth. The family wage, the family wage earner or earners bring home the paycheck and share the buying power with the entire family. What could possibly be wrong with that? The argument against communism is that those who work harder should be more rewarded. We agree. This chapter includes rewards and incentives and a shared wealth environment. We take we take the same family principles and apply them to a larger group, sorry. For example, several families, and now we have a greater financial leverage. Shared resources have greater buying power and thus get a better deal. Bringing the idea up one more level, we have collective wealth distributed through the government programs. For example, Social Security and other federal benefits. When applied to the government, though, it seems the group power may be limited or even limiting. Benefits often have strings attached. For example, if you accept welfare, then a warrantless search can be used against you. And they give us a footnote here. Let's check it out. Uh, Sanchez versus the County of San Diego, number 04-55122, DC CV001-01467, JTM. Opinion. Appeal from the United States District Court for the Southern District of California, filed September 19th, 2006. Okay, because I got the energy today and I feel like it, I'm gonna be picky. So they just gave me a footnote, right? That means that they're citing information that I can use to follow up and make sure that what they're saying is not just talk, right? But when I'm reading the footnote, it's telling me that this is the opinion of one of the justices in an appeal from the United States District Court for the Southern District of California. And that appeal was filed on September 19, 2006. This is the opinion, but what about the actual ruling? How did they rule? So to me, that's either an inaccuracy or misleading. Yeah, I don't like that. But this is what I'm saying: when you're reading, critique what you're reading. All right, let's keep going. Mhm. Limits created. Okay, this also. Let me go back. When accepting payments from any source, there may be conditions. This also applies to accepting funds from any trust. Limits created by the grantor often state they cannot be used against activities of the trust. In the Standard Oil Empire, for example, beneficiaries cannot invest in any enterprise that may decrease the oil domination. So basically, if you were what they say in the example they're giving there, and it's just my opinion of the reading, the example given there is to say that if you were Standard Oil, if you were in the Rockefeller family empire and you wanted to invest in clean energy, that will be against what the family is investing in and what the family is doing as Standard Oil. Their thing is the oil. So if you are a beneficiary and you said, I seen this guy has a great invention and I want to invest in it, it's going to put the family out of business. No, you will not be doing that. All right. Excuse me. The Board of Trustees learns quickly that those who get a dole from the trust are beholden to it. This leverage can marshal beneficiaries into a united group whose vested interest protects the trust. Experience shows that mere investigation of a charitable trust produces a strong reaction from the beneficiaries, generally in the form of lawyers for the affected charities. So, so basically, um, so in order to protect the trust, in order to get the trust to continue to do what it does and generate wealth for the beneficiaries, it needs to be it needs to be cared for, basically, right? You have to have people who are paying attention to what's going on, and not letting things happen to it that would not benefit the beneficiaries. So what they're saying here is that um, that can be used basically as leverage as well to motivate beneficiaries to act accordingly, You can leverage that uh, the important things that you've placed in trust, basically, whatever those things are. Um, yeah, building an army. The the board of trustees learns quickly that I'm sorry, I heard that already. Okay, impoverished relatives, often the bane of better off family members, needy rel- needy relatives who just cannot make it on their own, can through the trust receive a regular stipend. This gets them both off your back and off your fret list. Should their needs increase, they must then go to the board of trustees rather than to you to argue their case. If you struggle with your conscience because you believe if you help them, you make them more lazy and the challenges of life are for them as well as you. I'm sorry, I have to read that again because it is not. All right. If you struggle with your conscience because you believe if you help them, you make them more lazy and the challenges of life are for them as well as you, get out of denial. Some people are not cut out for quote unquote making it in the world. It is best if they are put into a place where they can work for the greater good of either humanity or the family. The trust picks up the bill if only the even if the only cash flow to them is a couple of $100 a month. Besides that, with a constant cash flow, even that little, they may just get on their feet. After all, it is less for them to worry about, and life just may take care of the rest. We suggest that people take a different look at the potential of family members and perhaps use them as assets. Even if the only talent is house cleaning, it is of value to any family to remove the load of the mundane. So, in other words, employ your family in any job you basically can, no matter how small or large. I don't think that's a bad thing. Because, as humans, period, we all come here with different talents and skills. So, yeah, it makes more sense to use people's skills, especially if you're able to um, benefit them and everyone else while doing it. That makes sense. The anxious and jealous. Because we review trust documents, we note that death sorry, TikTok. We know that unaliving or mint sometimes present an ugly issue about who will inherit, and we have even reviewed trust documents created when the grantor wished to disinherit relatives. All right. What is astonishing about these documents is they set up a dark scenario. The entertainment industry writes grand scripts based on this one premise. People are generally that aware that how a will or trust is written can determine who lives or dies. Thus, this aspect of distribution needs to be more thoroughly looked at. If you are better off dead to others, maybe you should redraft your plans to distribute your wealth. Somehow, I'm sorry, some now with more later would be a good beginning. Of course, if you do not have much to begin with, the solution does not apply. Dang. They saying that like as soon as you draw up the will and testament or the trust, people gonna be on you, but on your top for that money. All right. Hmm. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons some choose to use an irrevocable trust, since death has no effect on the trust. In fact, death and distribution of wealth are transparent in a properly structured irrevocable trust, whether statutory or common law. That's something to look up too. If you're just joining us in the class in the reading, you should know the difference between statutory and common law and how that affects your trust if you're going to make one. An irrevocable trust, whether someone died, oh, sorry, in an irrevocable trust, whether someone dies or does not die is irrelevant. It does not change the status of the invested principal, nor does it necessarily change the income distribution to the beneficiaries, as the assets are legally under the control of the perpetual board of trustees, not an individual. Too many times we have seen families where one member has the talent to make money and becomes hated by disgruntled relatives who are needy and jealous. It only makes sense that if one member of the family has a gift, there must be a way to harness it for the benefit of all. Of course, in our social structure, if you cannot take care of yourself, you are considered inferior, while he or she who brings home the bucks is revered, even if it's even if it is through envy. The idea here is to get everyone to win by working together. That should be the underlying motive for a plan to distribute wealth. Talents and application. Hold on, let me check. Make sure I have no questions in there. Nope. Nobody. All right, doesn't look like nobody. I don't really see a. All right, I don't know. All right. All right. Talents and application. In a trust situation, not all trustees are talented in the financial arena. Some have more expertise in the legal field, others in bookkeeping and accounting. Those who are known as the bean counters are often too timid when it comes to taking monetary risk. Better in the back room. They can do wonders with various financial reports. Even in this scenario, we can see that we have all that. Oh, I'm sorry, let me read that again. Even in this scenario, we can see that we all have gifts and need not chide those who cannot cut it in the business world by making millions. There seems to be a sixth sense for those who accumulated millions, and not everyone has it. When a trust group finds a magic man or woman who can multiply the assets, or I'm sorry, at least part of his or her ability to enlarge principal should be shared with the entire family. Here's a distribution event that did occur, although it was not within the context of an irrevocable trust. In one family, the husband died. Uh, the husband, the husband was unalived, and the wife inherited thousands and maybe even millions. She took her entire family on a world cruise, creating long lasting memories and deepening the bond between them. Do you want to build a fortune or keep it? Or, or do you want to hoard it for yourself? Do you want to build an army of support? What more could you do if you had powerful support? That is exactly what distribution procedures do. You may be grumbling about all this and say, not everyone deserves such a break. Well, those who are ungrateful just need to get excuse me. Those who are ungrateful just do not get as much, do they? That is why the trust capital units are distributed minimally in the beginning of a trust. Let the beneficiaries prove themselves. In fact, you can make up all kind of challenges for them. For those younger, they can earn trust capital units by getting better grades or devoting time to a trust business. For those older, they can make some overall contribution to the family or provide service to other members. For the rebellious, we have all sorts of ways to straighten them up. A perusal through IRS publication 17. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm right there at 1754. It was IRS publication 17, footnote 54. Let's go down and see what that's about. Your federal income tax for individuals, publication 17, catalog number 10311G, part 2, income section 13, income section 13, other income, estate, trust income, current income required to be distributed, and you must report your share of the distributable net income, whether or not you have actually received it. Okay. So it looks like what that's doing is telling us that um okay, yeah. So I'm gonna keep reading. It's gonna answer it. Okay. For the rebellious, we have all sorts of ways to straighten them up. A perusal through IRS publication 17 lets you know that a distribution can be given to a beneficiary without any money included. The beneficiary pays the taxes anyway. That usually sobers up the more unwilling to comply. Let the IRS hound the disobedient for a while. Just the mere threat of it should get the desired results. We know of no other agency that can cause the heart to stop in fear. We might as well make good use of such talent. All right. So basically, they're saying that when you get the distributions as a beneficiary, depending on how it's set up, you may have to pay some tax on that distribution. Let me read that again to make sure that's what they're saying here. Excuse me. Mhm. Yeah, so a distribution given to a beneficiary without any money included seems kind of dirty, but it looks like what they're saying is basically if you tell the IRS that you distributed something of value to the beneficiary that is taxable, then the IRS is going to go to the beneficiary for that said tax, right? Um, they are going to count it in dollars. They're not going to count it in what you gave. So, say for instance, I don't know, and this is not financial advice. I don't know anything about tax laws, and I don't know nothing. Don't ask me nothing. Um, but anyway, if you have a horse and you say, "I'm gonna give this to the one that's acting out, that ain't doing right, the beneficiary that ain't doing right, I'm gonna give him this horse." Um, the horse has a number value to it. So if in this scenario that I'm just making up out of nowhere, you guys, if horses had a taxable value, they would have to pay that tax. So then basically you give them one horse and they act up and they ain't acting right. And you say, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and move these three other horses to your plot of land that you are accountable for that you ain't taking care of. Since you don't want to go out there and take care of the land. And then they would still get that bill from the IRS. The IRS gonna come for their money. You know that. So that's what they're saying, basically to wrangle in a beneficiary who is not wanting to contribute as all the beneficiaries should. Okay, where we at? Okay, we discussed we discuss broad spectrum distribution in chapter 25, where wealth is distributed not only to one's immediate family but to another trust. That trust in turn shares the wealth with a different trust. A diagram can be found in Appendix D. Appendix D, it's going to be all the way in the end. I'll come back for that. For those who are interested in getting into the nuts and bolts of distribution, We devote an entire chapter in volume 2. Why did he say volume 2? I said stop saying that to me. All right. Because you could have just put it right here. Wow. What? All right. Now I gotta go back because I done lost my place. 'Cause I'm angry. We discussed process. For those interested in getting into the nuts and bolts of distribution, we devote an entire chapter in volume 2 to the trust certificate register and TCU process found only in the common law trust structure. So I got questions now. There is a process of creating a trust within the common law trust structure. I want to know what the difference is if I create the trust in that versus another, you know what I'm saying, structure that's going to. I'm supposed to be getting questions answered. I shouldn't have more questions when we get into the secrets. Mr. Charles, come on. All right. We discussed the process. Yeah. Although it may be a mind fry to grasp this more esoteric way of handling shared wealth, it will be to your great advantage if you choose to go down this path. Also, since this is the first time something of this depth and nature has ever been published, we hope this information serves as a foundation point. Control of beneficiaries. With distribution comes control. Where cash flow makes a significant impact on the recipient, the power of its misuse follows. Because a board of trustees is made up of more than just one person who could take advantage of the situation, we hope to prevent domination games. It sounds like something from Game of Thrones. Um, we should, should the distribution, should the distribution be the major financial support of the beneficiary, then the trustees may elect to use gentle guidance and incentives to encourage greater involvement in education, healing modalities, or spiritual endeavors. In most cases, the Board of Trustees does not get involved in any type of interference with someone's life. The funds received can be used as the beneficiary chooses, except where use may be contrary to the trust indenture. In a common law trust situation, though, inviting beneficiaries to a Board of Trustees meeting can be much to everyone's advantage. Here is where a great bonding among trust members can occur. One more thing. There is the situation where distribution may support the lazy, deter their taking on challenges, or make them complacent about life. Putting aside for the moment the possibility such inability to self-actualize may stem from a dysfunctional family, there are those who may not be aggressive enough to even try. We have a situation where a beneficiary received only $100 a month to help $100 a month to help her pay rent. Unfortunately, the trust giving $100 fell upon hard times, and even this small amount was stopped. The trust fell on hard times, dude. Um, Over time, it may have been the beneficiary had gotten herself into an overall better situation where she felt supported, or perhaps the loss of the $100 provided a keen incentive. Forced by this new circumstance and desperate to keep her apartment, she went to her boss to explain the loss of $100 She went to her boss to explain the loss of $100 made it impossible for her to remain where she lived. In response, he made another arrangement at work and reorganized her commission structure. In a month, she was offered a promotion. By her own words, she reported, "I have always avoided responsibility. I have been fearful of taking on new challenges. It scares me to accept this position, but I'm going to do it." During the 5 years in which she received the beneficial distribution, she changed jobs. Being in a better place to make this move, coupled with the removal of $100 a month extra cash, allowed her to be willing to meet this new challenge. I feel like I read that wrong. All right. Okay. We would not say the $100 a month prevented her from taking on additional responsibility. We would say the $100 a month provided her with the time she needed to make the right decisions, the right connections. I'm sorry. Would she have accepted the promotion, became highly motivated, although she was upset? What? Oh, I'm tired. Although the upset provided by the new situation became highly motivating, she may have done it anyway because she trusted the management structure. We will never know. The board of trustees felt honored to help her, even with just this small amount, and she had been grateful. In a situation like this, it is always up to the board of trustees to make the judgment call as to how much, when, and if beneficial distribution should be given, or a gift from the trust should be offered. Oh, all right. That was chapter 10. It was a short chapter today. I ain't even mad at it because I was getting tired. Let me see if I got any comments. Okay, I don't got no comments, no questions. And all right. All right. So what stood out to me in this? Let me go back and look over it again. Okay, so this chapter 10, the power distribution, seems to focus on how, if written correctly, the tr- the way that the trust indenture is set up and written, it can be a powerful tool to motivate the members. The trustee, the trustees, not trustees. I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. The beneficiaries. Sorry about that. In the case of the trust, it should be people within it that are trying to make it grow, right? For the beneficiaries, um, for the beneficiaries. So if you wanted to involve, let's say, the beneficiaries and being more active, there's ways that you can motivate them by distributing their wealth that's in the trust, basically. The distribution cycle, the distribution schedule, how you do that is going to motivate people to act, or sometimes to not act where they may want to. Um, yeah, that's basically it. That's all I saw on this one. Oh yeah, it talked a little bit about this. It talked a little bit about anxious and jealous people and broke relatives and stuff. But again, if I understand bringing that up because people will drag you down, but again, I'm looking for the ease. Look up at where is it at? Okay, yeah, I'm looking for the secrets. I'm looking for that art. That's what you said. The art. I'm looking for it. You know, I'm big on things not being vague. So, after reading chapter 10, I have seen some benefit. I'm not going to say it's all negative. You know, my wife says I always say everything is negative. That's why I don't have no friends. But I don't. I'm just trying to be real with y'all. I don't want to waste nobody's time. So far, chapter 10, 10 chapters in, and what I've gotten is set up your trust, put trustworthy people in there, put people who have never been harmed or not never been harmed, but have been given such a smooth life that they're not challenging every little thing. That was what, chapter 9 or 8. So I don't know, y'all. What y'all think? Are we learning something here? Are we growing from this? Okay, let me say this. Let me gotta say something positive. Um, all right, so they want. I like in a common law trust situation, though inviting beneficiaries to a board of trustees meeting can be much to everyone's advantage. Here is where great bonding among trust members can occur. I like this idea for a family. I like it because these exercises that you will be partaking in, if they were done correctly, even if you're not putting $600,000 into the trust, these actions, for example, you have to have regular meetings. If you are a legitimate trust, you have to have regular meetings and you have to have minutes, right? In case somebody were to try to challenge your trust. So if that's true, that means that those people who you may not talk to regularly because life be life, and these are set times that you would at least come together. And if this is family members or at least people you trust enough to call them family, then you will be building the bonds in those relationships while also trying to increase wealth for those beneficiaries. So I think that's a very good thing, excellent thing. I mean, if you're going to spend time together doing silly stuff or not learning or playing, nothing wrong with a little bit of play, but if you're going to spend a lot of time doing that, then you might as well spend some time doing this. Why not? Can't hurt, right? Especially if it's building something. So that's my positive, is that doing this structure, not looking at it as a get rich quick scheme, get rich quick scheme. It's a scheme to get rich quick. If you're not looking at it that way and you're looking at it as something that you can use as a tool for building your family up, building relationships, building accountability into one another, just as a close knit group, it seems like a good idea, especially because it has those financial principles behind it. So if you start to do it, you put it into practice, you make your trust, you get it rolling. Having your regular meetings. Um, Eventually, like using, as I said, using the people that you have in order to build it, using the talents that each individual has in order to build it up. One of those talents is going to hit. The singer is someone's going to say, I really like that singing you do. And they're going to want to invest. That means now, boom, if we are the singer family trust and we, trying to make it, we got a producer, we got a singer, we got a songwriter, we got, all these different aspects, but we, just can't get nobody on. And one day somebody hear the singer singing and like, yeah, yeah, I want a contract with you. There you go. Now all your structure is already built, right? You don't have to be super rich or nothing like that, but you have everything in place now. So then if one of the talents of one of the people in the trust, if it hits, you ready now because you already have that trust indenture written out like a business plan to say that this is what us together are going to try to accomplish and do. And as soon as one of you, any one of you within it, strikes that, oil, like boom, I hit over here. And it doesn't have to be the same thing. Everybody can have a different talent that they do. And like we earlier when we was reading, it doesn't matter if it's just sweeping the floor. If that's what you know how to do, keep stuff clean. It's not a bad thing. You just do that because, again, if we're sharing the wealth, and we're learning how to do this, if and none of us are super rich, but the person who doesn't have too much talents um, can't really do much. If they're just cleaning and they going to throw the trash out, and they like, I'm gonna go to the store real quick, buy a lottery ticket. Boom. Now the person who had the least amount of talents in the trust just happened to pull that ticket. And what you gonna do? You're gonna go right up there with your lawyer with the trust in the trust bank account. Put that in there, and now boom, you're off to the races. So it doesn't. I mean, again, I don't want to sound like it's all negative. This is good stuff too that's applicable. I think just having it because it promotes something positive. It promotes you talking to your family members, talking to those that you trust, and forming that structure like a business for your own benefit. It's for y'all, So I think that's a good thing. I just thought that there would be more like steps, I guess, is what I was looking for, instructions on how to do it. But they did start off by saying we can't give you that because we're not professionals. This is more or less motivating me to want to take those steps. So I guess, like I said, that's my critique, the good and the bad. It is what it is. So let's see what we got here. 11. Okay. Yeah. All right. So only takes 45 minutes to get through that chapter 10, but if I don't have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Mm, okay. Thanks for coming in. Looks like John. John? Thanks for coming in, John. Um, Appreciate y'all coming in. And let's check over here on the YouTube. No, nobody's watching. All right. So I got no questions or nothing like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out till tomorrow. We'll see y'all back here approximately 6 o'clock. And we'll read chapter 11. All right.